Habits define your character. Story by Sarah J. Once, King Alim was sitting among his ministers in his court when a stranger arrived. The man, named Dower, requested a job. The king needed a stable boy, so he asked whether Dower knew about horses. Dower replied that he had never worked with horses before, but since he needed a job, he would manage. The king asked him about his work experience. Dower replied that he had worked as a siyasi before. In Arabic, a siyasi is a mediator who solves the problems of others. The king offered him the job of a stable boy, which he accepted. Dower was a hard-working and honest man. He worked in the stable from morning until late at night. One day, the king visited the stable and asked about his favorite horse. "How is my purebred horse, Rick?" Dower replied, "Your Majesty, Rick is doing well, but he doesn't seem purebred." "How could you say that? I know Rick is purebred." The king spoke harshly and immediately called his old stable boy to inquire about the horse. The man said, "Your Highness, the horse was born purebred, but his mother died during childbirth, so he was raised among our domestic cows." The king asked Dower how he had known the horse wasn't raised among his own breed. Dower replied, "Because of his habits. A horse eats with his head raised after picking food from the ground, but Rick eats only grass with his head down. That's how I knew he was raised among cows." The king appreciated his knowledge and intelligence. He was so pleased that he sent goats and grain to Dower's home and appointed him as a palace manager. One day, the king called Dower into his chamber and asked, "What do you think about the queen?" Dower said, "Accept my apologies, but I will not say a word." The king insisted, "Don't worry, just tell me what you think." Dower answered, "My lord, the queen is not a princess by birth." The king was angered but kept silent. He decided to investigate and visited his mother-in-law, the Queen of Toriban. After hesitation, she revealed, "Before marrying the king, I was a commoner. I was married to a trader and had a daughter with him. After he died, I married the king and had another daughter. The king was overjoyed at her birth, and your father, his dear friend, requested her hand for you. We agreed happily. But before the wedding, our daughter passed away. We didn't want to lose the alliance, so we married off my first daughter instead. She is not a princess by birth. I've carried this guilt for years." The king forgave her. When he returned home, King Alim called Dower and asked how he had known the queen was not a princess. Dower replied, "Because of her behavior toward the servants. A true princess would never be cruel or rude to those who serve her." Impressed, the king gifted Dower cows, goats, and grain. Days later, the king called Dower again and asked, "What do you know about me?" Dower was stunned and pleaded, "My Majesty, please do not ask me that." But the king insisted, "I promise you will not be harmed. Trust me." Dower hesitated, then answered, "My lord, you are not a prince by birth. You have the blood of a shepherd." The king was furious and asked him to leave. He would have punished Dower had he not promised safety. King Alim rushed to his mother's room and demanded the truth. She admitted, "Your uncle wanted the throne, and we had no heir, so we secretly adopted a shepherd's son and presented him as our own to save the kingdom. That child was you." The king called Dower once more and asked how he had known. Dower replied, "When a king is pleased, he gives jewels and pearls. But you give sheep, goats, cows, and grain. That's how I knew you were not a prince by birth." The king asked him to keep the secret and appointed him as his minister. The end.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
In a faraway kingdom, there was a Tsar named Vislav Andronovich. He had 3 sons, Dmitri, Vasily, and the youngest, Ivan. The Tsar owned a garden so grand that there was no garden in any country in the world that could compare with it. In the middle of the garden stood his most precious tree, one that grew golden apples. But then, a Firebird became a regular visitor to Tsar Vislav's garden. It had golden feathers, and its eyes were like oriental crystals. This magical bird flew to the garden every night and sat on Tsar Vislav's favourite apple tree. It sat for a while, lighting up the garden with a golden glow before nibbling at some apples. The Firebird then plucked a particularly large one, gripped it tightly in its talons, and flew away. Tsar Vislav became more and more upset, because every night he lost more and more of his golden apples. Eventually, he called his 3 sons to him and said,
"My dear children, Which of you can catch the Firebird in my garden? Whoever succeeds shall have half my kingdom, now, and the rest when I'm gone.
His children, the princes, cried out with one voice. Dear father, your royal majesty, we will do our utmost to catch the Firebird alive. On the first night, Prince Dimitri went to keep watch in the garden and sat under the apple tree from which the Firebird was picking apples. Unfortunately, he fell asleep and did not hear how the magical bird flew in and picked a great many apples. In the morning, Tsar Vislav Andronovich called his son Dmitri to him.
Well, my dear son, have you seen the Firebird or not?
Dmitri answered, No, my dear lord father. The next night, Prince Vasily went into the garden to watch for the Firebird. He sat under the same apple tree and, after sitting for an hour or two, fell soundly asleep. He too did not hear the Firebird fly in and nibble on the apples. In the morning, Tsar Vislav called him and asked,
Well, my dear son, have you seen the Firebird or not?
Dear Sir Father, she did not fly in last night. On the third night, Prince Ivan went into the garden to keep watch and sat under the same apple tree. He sat there for an hour, then another, and then another. Suddenly, the whole garden lit up, as if by a great star. The Firebird flew in, sat on the apple tree, and began to pluck the apples. Ivan crept up to it so skillfully that he grabbed it by the tail. However, he wasn't able to hold on to it. The Firebird broke free and flew away. Ivan was left with only one feather from the tail in his hand. In the morning, as soon as Tsar Vislav awoke from his sleep, Ivan gave him a feather from the Firebird. Tsar Vislav was very happy that his youngest son managed to get at least one feather from the Firebird. This feather was so wonderful and bright that if you brought it into a dark room, it would shine as if a great many candles were lit in that room. Tsar Vislav put the feather in his study as a thing that should be kept forever. After losing a feather, the Firebird did not fly into the garden again. Tsar Vislav again called his children to him and said to them,
My dear children, go on a journey. Find the Firebird and bring it to me, alive.
Dmitri and Vasily were already jealous of their younger brother Ivan, because he had managed to pull a feather from the tail of the Firebird. They took a blessing from their father and went off together to find the magical bird. And Ivan also began to ask his father for a blessing for this. Tsar Vislav said to him,
Still young and not used to such a long and difficult journey. Why leave me? What if all three of you do not return for a long time?
But try as he might, he could not dissuade young Ivan from trying his hand at finding the Firebird, and he too set out on his way. Along his journey, Ivan came to a sign with 3 directions. Straight ahead promised hunger and cold. The right promised to cost him his horse, but spare his life. And the left threatened to take his life, but spare his horse. Ivan chose the right path. After riding for many days, a great grey wolf jumped out in front of weary Ivan.
Oh, you boy,
said the wolf, which is something like, Your Highness.
Did you not read the sign that said you would lose your horse if you came this way?
I did, Sir Wolf, replied Ivan. But it was better than freezing to death or losing my life. And as soon as he said these words, the horse threw him to the ground and ran off. Ivan was very sad about his horse, but this was no time to cry. He continued on foot, incredibly tired and longing to sit down to rest. Then the grey wolf caught up with him and said,
I feel sorry for you, Ivan, that you are exhausted on foot. Climb on my back and tell me where to take you.
Ivan explained his quest for the Firebird. The grey knew exactly where to go. He rushed faster than a horse. By the start of night, he brought Ivan to a stone wall that was not very high, stopped and said,
Well, Ivan, we've arrived. Time to slip off my back and climb over this stone wall. There is a garden behind the wall, and in that garden the Firebird sits in a golden cage. You take the Firebird, but do not touch the golden cage. If you take the cage, you will not be able to escape from the garden. You will be caught immediately.
Ivan climbed over the stone wall into the garden, saw the Firebird in a golden cage, gleaming and lighting up the whole garden. He took the shining bird out of the cage and went back. But just as he was about to climb out of the garden, he said to himself, "Why did I take the Firebird without a cage? Where shall I put it?" He returned, and as soon as he took off with the golden cage, there was a dreadful knocking and thunder throughout the garden. The guards immediately woke up, ran into the garden, and caught Ivan with the Firebird. They brought him to their king, whose name was Dolmat. King Dolmat became very angry with Ivan and shouted at him in a loud and angry voice.
Aren't you ashamed of yourself, young man? Where are you from? And who is your father?
Ivan said to him, I am from the kingdom of Vislav, and my name is Ivan. The Tsar is my father. Your Firebird flew into our garden every night and plucked golden apples from my father's favourite apple tree. For this reason, my father sent me to find the Firebird and bring it to him.
Well, you've gone the wrong way about it, but I shall give you a chance. If you do me a favour, go to the thrice 9 lands and fetch me a golden maned horse from Tsar Afron. If you do this, I will forgive you and give you the Firebird with great honor. But if you fail to do this favor, then I will let all the world know you are a dishonest thief.
Ivan left King Dolmat in great shame, promising to fetch the golden maned horse.
Oi, you boy, young man, Ivan, son of the Tsar.
The grey wolf said to him,
Why did you not listen to me? Why did you take the golden cage?
I am guilty before you, Ivan said to the wolf.
Very well, so be it,
said the grey wolf.
Climb onto my back. I will take you wherever you need to go.
Prince Ivan sat on the grey wolf's back, and the wolf ran as fast as an arrow. They finally reached the kingdom of Tsar Afron at night, and having come to the white stone royal stables, the grey wolf said to Prince Ivan,
Go now to these white stone stables. The grooms on guard are all fast asleep. Take the golden maned horse. When you see a golden bridle hanging on the wall, do not take it, or it will be bad for you.
Ivan crept into the white stone stables, took his horse, and was about to escape. Then he saw a golden bridle on the wall, and was so tempted by it that he took it off the nail. As soon as he did this, there was thunder and noise throughout the stables. The grooms woke up, came running, caught Ivan, and led him to Tsar Afron. Tsar Afron began to ask him,
Oh, you boy, young man, tell me your country, your father, and your name.
To this, Ivan answered him, I myself am from the kingdom of Vislav, the son of Tsar Vislav, and my name is Prince Ivan.
Well, Prince Ivan, you have done a wrong thing. But I will give you a chance. Fetch me Prince Yelena, the beautiful. I have long loved her with my soul and my heart. Do me this favor, and I shall forgive you and give you the golden bridle with honor. But if you do not do me this favor, then I will let all the world know that you are a stinky, dishonest thief.
Then Ivan promised Tsar Afron to fetch the Princess Helena the Beautiful, and felt ashamed at what he had done.
Oh, you boy, young man, Ivan, son of the Tsar.
The grey wolf said to him,
Why did you not listen to me? Why did you take the golden bridle?
I am guilty before you, Ivan said to the wolf.
Very well, so be it,
said the grey wolf.
Climb onto my back. I will take you where you need to go.
The grey wolf once again carried Ivan on his back and ran swiftly, covering vast distances in a short time. At last, they reached the kingdom where Princess Elena the Beautiful lived. A golden fence surrounded her wondrous garden, and the wolf stopped just outside it.
"Now, Ivan,"
said the grey wolf.
"you must follow my instructions carefully. I will leap over this fence and capture Princess Elena myself. You wait for me here under this oak tree, and when I return, you must not hesitate. Jump on my back immediately, and we shall make our escape."
Ivan agreed. The wolf leapt gracefully over the garden fence and waited in hiding until evening. When Princess Elena came into the garden with her attendants, as soon as she approached, the wolf darted out, seized her gently but firmly, and bounded back over the fence.
"Quick, Ivan!"
the wolf called.
"Jump onto me now!"
Ivan climbed onto the wolf's back, and they sped away with Princess Elena. Despite the commotion raised in the palace, no one could catch them, and soon they were far away from the kingdom. As they travelled, Ivan and Elena began to talk, and before long, they had fallen deeply in love. When they neared the kingdom of Tsar Afron, Ivan became sorrowful. "How can I give up the princess? I now love with all my heart." The grey wolf, ever loyal, comforted him.
"Do not despair, Ivan. I will transform myself into the likeness of Princess Elena. Take me to Tsar Afron. He will be very pleased and let you have the golden-maned horse. Little will he realize that his beautiful bride is a grey wolf in disguise."
Ivan was delighted with this plan. And then, all of a sudden, there were not one, but 2 Princess Elenas standing before him. Now that was magic. He escorted the one who was really the wolf in disguise to Tsar Afron. Tsar Afron was delighted and happily exchanged the horse with the golden mane and the golden bridle for the princess. Then Ivan returned to where he left the real Princess Elena and lifted her onto the horse with the golden mane. They travelled to the court of King Dolmat, who happily exchanged the Firebird for the horse, and at last they set off for home. But on the way, they ran into his brothers, Dmitri and Vasily, who were furious to see that their little brother Ivan was returning not only with the Firebird, but with a beautiful princess too. They drew their swords and were about to attack their little brother, when the grey wolf jumped out of the bushes and filled them with terror. They galloped away on their horses as fast as they could and did not dare return for a very long time. So Ivan, without his brothers, came to his father the Tsar and presented him with the Firebird. His father was overjoyed to see him, though worried about his other sons. Ivan and Princess Elena the Beautiful were married, and eventually became Tsar and Tsarina of the kingdom, and lived happily ever after, while the Firebird lit up the garden at night with a golden light, and only ate the apples that it was given. And as for the grey wolf, he lived in the gatehouse of the palace with his wife and cubs, making sure that no thieves or bad people ever entered the grounds again. And that was the tale of the Firebird and the grey wolf from Russia.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
The Gingerbread Man. Once upon a time, a little old woman and a little old man lived in a cottage near a river. One morning, the little old woman decided to bake a gingerbread man as a little afternoon treat. As she rolled out the dough, she cut it into the shape of a little man. She used icing to give him eyes and a smile, gumdrops for buttons, and a cherry for a nose. She then put him in the oven to bake. A few minutes later, the little old woman checked to see if he was cooked. As soon as she opened the door, the gingerbread man jumped out of the oven and ran through the open kitchen door. "Don't eat me!" he shouted. The little old woman was very surprised, but she was also very hungry. So she called to her husband, and they both ran out the front door and after the gingerbread man. "Stop!" they yelled. "Please stop!" But the gingerbread man did not look back. He kept running, down the lane and into the woods as he sang. "Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." As he entered the woods, the gingerbread man came across a pig. "Stop, I would very much like to eat you. The gingerbread man did not stop. Instead, he ran right past the pig.
I've outrun a little old woman and a little old man, and I can outrun you too. Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man.
It was not long before the gingerbread man saw a cow grazing at the edge of the woods.
Stop, little man. I'm very hungry.
But the gingerbread man was just too fast for the cow.
I've outrun a little old woman and a little old man and a big fat pig, and I can outrun you. Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man.
The cow decided to chase the gingerbread man too, but the gingerbread man was just too fast. A little further on, the gingerbread man came upon a horse.
Stop running! I want to eat you!
But the gingerbread man did not stop.
I've outrun a little old woman, a little old man, a big fat pig, and a lazy cow, and I'll outrun you too. Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man.
Of course, the horse did not like being taunted, so he too chased the gingerbread man. Soon he came to a rushing river.
Oh no! If I get wet, I'll melt. But if I don't, they'll catch me. What do I do?
Just then, a sneaky fox appeared and said,
I can help you across the river. Climb onto my back, and I'll swim across.
The gingerbread man did not trust the fox.
Do you promise you won't eat me?
Of course I won't eat you. I just want to help you.
The gingerbread man decided that trusting the fox was better than being caught by the horse, the cow, the pig, and the little old man and the little old woman. So he climbed up onto the fox's back, and together they swam across the river. They were about halfway there when the fox said,
I'm getting tired. You should climb up onto my head.
So the gingerbread man did. They were about 3/4 of the way there when the fox said,
I'm getting tired again. You should climb onto my nose.
So the gingerbread man did. They reached the other side of the river, and before the gingerbread man could climb down, the fox flicked his nose and tossed the gingerbread man high into the air. He opened his mouth as wide as he could, and that was the end of the gingerbread man.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
A long time ago, in a faraway land, a man and a woman lived happily together, waiting for the birth of their first child. They lived in a small house with a big garden behind it, but they never dared to go inside the garden because they had heard that witch lived inside it and would curse anyone who entered. One day, the woman sat weakly by the window, her face pale with sadness and hunger. Seeing her so frail, the man remembered stories of the garden said to hold the most delicious fruits and vegetables. Desperate to save her, he decided to sneak into the forbidden place. He climbed over the tall wall and quietly jumped inside. Amazed by the mesmerizing sight, and began filling his basket with all the vegetables. As he was placing the last of tomatoes in his basket, he heard an angry voice call out, "Who said you could take my vegetables?" Shocked and scared, he begged the witch, "Please don't hurt me. I'm taking these vegetables for my wife and future child." The witch rubbed her chin and thought, "Child, I will spare you, and even let you eat all the tasty treats in my garden, but in return you must give me your child." The man was so terrified that he quickly agreed and ran back home relieved to be safe. Not long after, their daughter was born, and the very next day the witch kept her promise and took the child from them. The witch named the girl Rapunzel. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful girl with long golden hair as long as a football field. But at age 13, the witch trapped the princess in a tower deep in the forest, with no doors or stairs, so that no one could ever take her. Every morning, the witch would visit Rapunzel and say, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Rapunzel would let down her hair, and the witch would climb up to visit her. Rapunzel hated the visits of the witch as she was so cruel and mean. Every day when she was alone, Rapunzel would sing out her window, dreaming of a better world. Many years later, a prince was exploring the forest when he heard the most beautiful singing he had ever heard. He followed the singing all the way to the tower and hid behind a bush. While Rapunzel was singing, he fell instantly in love. He watched as the witch came to call out to Rapunzel and climbed the tower. After the witch left, the prince called out to Rapunzel at the bottom of the tower, just like he had seen the witch do. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Down tumbled the long golden hair, and up climbed the prince. At first, Rapunzel was frightened of the stranger, as she had never seen a man before, but she was immediately taken aback by how kind and loving he was compared to the evil witch. Rapunzel loved hearing the stories of the outside world. They fell in love immediately, and the prince promised to rescue her so they could live happily together. But they needed a plan to escape. The next day, and for many days after the prince visited Rapunzel, he would bring her silk so that she could knit and weave a rope to climb down. One day, the witch noticed Rapunzel hiding something in the corner and grew suspicious. She discovered the silk rope and became enraged. The witch got so angry that she cut off Rapunzel's beautiful golden hair and cast a spell that sent her deep into the middle of the forest to live. When the prince came later that day, he called out, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Down came tumbling Rapunzel's long golden hair. When the prince reached the top, the witch cried, Ha! The princess is gone forever, and you will never find her. Shocked, the prince fell, landing in a bush of thorns that scratched his eyes, making him blind. Heartbroken and blind, the prince wandered around the forest for months, calling out, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, where are you? He didn't know where he was and felt like giving up until one day he heard the most beautiful singing he had ever heard. Yes, I found you at last, he cried. She ran into his arms and they hugged each other tight, happy to finally be together again. She cried tears of joy that fell into his eyes and cured his blindness. Together, the prince led them back to his castle and they lived happily ever after.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
A long time ago, when animals still had the power of speech, a white, stripeless tiger crept to the edge of the jungle and looked out at the paddy fields where the rice grew. He saw a man sitting under a banana tree eating his lunch. Not far away stood a buffalo, who was also taking a rest from his work ploughing the fields. The great beast swished his tail to swipe away the flies. The tiger crept forward on his belly, using his powerful arms to pull himself through the grass. And when he was just behind the buffalo, he whispered, Do not be afraid. I do not come to satisfy my hunger, but to seek your advice. Do tell me the answer to my question. I am so curious to know. I have been observing the puny little man who is your master. He has no strength, no sharp sense of smell. His hands are not strong, his teeth are not sharp, and yet he rules you and makes you work for him.
You, on the other hand, are a magnificent beast of great wonderful strength. You are 20 times his weight and size, and I know to my cost that you can put up a fair fight with the best of the beasts of the jungle. I have heard the source of man's power is something called wisdom. So tell me, O buffalo, what is wisdom, and where does the man get it from? The buffalo munched slowly on his grass for a while before answering. Beats me. I've no idea. Why don't you ask him? The tiger saw that he wouldn't get a sensible answer from the buffalo, and so he sprang over to the man in one great bound, and as he stood before the trembling farmer, he said, Have no fear, little man. I have not come to satisfy my hunger. I am here in search of wisdom. Do answer my question, please, for it perplexes me. What's this thing that men call wisdom? What does it look like? Where does it come from? Will you not share some of it with me? The man wiped the sweat of fear from his forehead and said as calmly as he could, Wisdom is very precious. Must I really give some of it to you? The choice is yours, said the tiger. But do you hear that sound? It is my stomach rumbling. I have not slept or eaten for 3 days, so perplexed have I been by this question, that I am now starting to feel like I could do with a bite to eat. And the man could indeed hear a low rumbling sound. He replied to the tiger, Well, of course, I will gladly share my wisdom with you. But I am afraid I have left it at home today. I must go and fetch it for you. If you come back with me, I am afraid the villagers will take fright. Will you wait here a while? The tiger walked around the man menacingly before giving his reply. I will wait. But be sure to come back, or I will visit you in your field again tomorrow, and next time I might be more hungry than inquisitive. The man started to walk out of the field. But he had only taken a few steps when he turned back and said, Please forgive me. I am troubled by the thought of leaving a hungry tiger here with my animals. Will you let me tie you to this tree while I am away fetching the wisdom? That way my fears will be at rest. The tiger was afraid that the man would change his mind about sharing his wisdom. He thought of the great power that only little wisdom would give. How with his strength and with just a little of man's wisdom, he would rule every creature that walked, slithered, swam, or flew across the world. He wanted this prize so much that he agreed to let the man coil a rope round his body and his legs and tie him to the trunk of the banana tree. A little later, the man returned to the field with his 3 sons. Each carried armfuls of dry straw. I have kept my side of the bargain. I have brought you wisdom, said the man. And he and his sons laid the straw on the ground beneath the tiger. Then the man set a light to it. Bright orange flames leapt up and burnt the tiger. He roared with pain until at last the fire seared through the ropes, and he sprang to freedom and bounded for the river where he soothed his burnt fur in the cooling waters. In time, the wounds of the tiger healed, but forevermore his body bore orange stripes where the flames had burned him, and black ones where the ropes had bound him. And that's the story.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
Goldilocks and the 3 Bears.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl with golden curly hair whose name was Goldilocks. One day, Goldilocks was playing near her home when she saw a butterfly. She tried to catch it, but the butterfly flew away. So Goldilocks chased it, right down the path and into the forest. Soon Goldilocks was lost, but then she saw a small house in the middle of the woods. Said Goldilocks.
I'm sure whoever lives here will help me find my way back.
Goldilocks knocked on the door 3 times. The door swung open.
I don't think anyone is home.
Then she smelled a delicious smell, and her tummy rumbled loudly. So she decided to go inside. On the table in the small house were 3 bowls of porridge. 1 large bowl, 1 medium bowl, and 1 small bowl. Goldilocks was very hungry.
I'm sure whoever lives here won't notice if I have a little bit of this porridge.
First Goldilocks tried a spoonful from the large bowl.
Oh my! This porridge is too hot!
Next, Goldilocks tried a spoonful from the medium bowl.
This porridge is too cold!
Finally, Goldilocks tried a spoonful from the small bowl.
This porridge is just right.
The porridge in the small bowl was so delicious that she ate it all up. Goldilocks was very tired, so she went into the living room and found 3 chairs. There was a great big wooden chair, a medium pink chair, and a small blue chair.
I'm sure whoever lives here won't mind if I rest for a little while.
First Goldilocks sat in the great big wooden chair.
This chair is not comfortable at all.
Next Goldilocks sat in the medium pink chair. She sank deep into the cushions.
Ugh, this chair is too squishy.
Finally, Goldilocks sat in the small blue chair.
This chair is just right.
Just as she settled into the small chair, it broke into pieces right under her.
Uh-oh. Maybe I should just lie down instead.
So Goldilocks went upstairs to a bedroom, where she found a great big bed, a medium bed, and a tiny little bed.
I'm sure whoever lives here won't mind if I take a short nap.
First, she lay in the great big bed.
Oh my, this bed is too hard.
Next, she lay in the medium bed.
This won't do. This bed is too soft.
Finally, Goldilocks lay in the smallest bed.
This bed is just right.
Goldilocks pulled the blanket over her and soon fell asleep. At the same time, a family of 3 bears came home to their little house in the woods. They were very surprised to see that the front door was already open.
It looks like someone has been eating my porridge,
said Papa Bear as he looked into his large bowl.
It looks like someone has been eating my porridge too,
said Mama Bear as she looked into her medium bowl.
Someone has definitely been eating my porridge. It's all gone,
cried Baby Bear. The 3 bears went into the living room to find out who ate their porridge.
I think someone has been sitting in my chair,
said Papa Bear.
I think someone has been sitting in my chair too,
said Mama Bear.
Someone has definitely been sitting in my chair,
cried Baby Bear.
And they broke it to pieces.
And so the 3 bears went upstairs to find out who had been sitting in their chairs.
I believe someone has been sleeping in my bed,
said Papa Bear.
I believe someone has been sleeping in my bed too,
said Mama Bear.
Someone has definitely been sleeping in my bed,
cried Baby Bear.
And she's still here.
The 3 bears roared, and Goldilocks woke up very suddenly at the sight of 3 angry bears. The little girl jumped up out of her bed and ran down until she was out of the woods and all the way home. From that day on, she never ever went back into the forest, and the 3 bears never ever saw Goldilocks again.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
Once upon a time, there was a boy named Jack who lived with his mother in a tiny cottage in the countryside. They were very poor, and the only thing they owned was a very old cow. One day, Jack's mother said,
I'm afraid our old cow will no longer give milk. We will have to sell her so we can buy food. Jack, take her to the market and see what you can get. Yes, Mother,
said Jack, as he headed down the country lane with the old cow to see what she would fetch at the market. But it was a very long walk from Jack's home in the countryside all the way to the market, so Jack decided to take a shortcut through the forest.
Well, hello there,
said a croaking voice. Jack jumped in surprise at the sound, and he saw an old traveller.
Where are you headed, my boy?
our cow no longer gives milk,
Jack told the man.
so I'm taking her to the market to see what I can get.
You know, my boy, it's a very long way, and you won't get much for that old cow, but I'll give you something for her.
The old man held out his hand.
How about these 5 magic beans?
Magic beans?
Even though the beans didn't look very magical, Jack thought they sounded very exciting. So he gave the old man the cow, and he took the beans home to show his mother.
Jack!
His mother exclaimed.
You're back so soon. What did you get for our old cow? Look, Mother.
Jack thought his mother would be very pleased to see what he had gotten.
I traded our old cow for 5 magic beans.
But she was not at all happy with him.
Silly boy.
She scolded.
Now we have no cow and no money.
She took the 5 beans and she tossed them right out the window. Then she sent Jack straight to bed. The next morning, Jack awoke and looked out his window at the bright sunny day. Then he jumped up in surprise.
Oh my.
Right outside their cottage, a giant beanstalk had sprouted up from the ground, and it stretched all the way into the clouds. Jack was a very curious boy, and so he began to climb the beanstalk. Higher and higher he climbed, until his little cottage was just a tiny dot far below him. Still higher he climbed, until his head poked through the clouds. And still he climbed higher, where he was very astonished to find a road sitting upon a particularly fluffy cloud. He followed the road, and it led him to a beautiful, enormous stone castle. By the time he reached the castle's gate, not only was he very hungry, but he was still very curious. So he knocked on the tall wooden door of the castle.
Hello.
A woman answered. She was the tallest woman Jack had ever seen. She towered over him, so high that she did not even notice tiny Jack far below her.
Excuse me,
said Jack.
I've travelled very far, and I haven't had any breakfast. Oh.
Said the giant woman in surprise as she looked down at him.
Well, we don't get many visitors here. Please come in. But you must be quick. My husband will soon be home, and if he sees you, you'll be his breakfast. Oh.
The giant woman led Jack into a huge kitchen where she fed him eggs and sausage and toast and all sorts of delicious food. He ate and ate until he was quite full and very happy.
Thank you,
said Jack.
That was very delicious, but I really should be getting home.
Jack paused because just then he heard rumbling footsteps that made the castle floor shake.
Oh no,
said the giant woman.
My husband is home. Quickly, hide in the cupboard.
Jack jumped into the cupboard just as the giant came in. He had a long, scraggly beard, and his mouth was twisted in an angry scowl.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
Don't be silly,
said the giant woman.
You smell the eggs and sausages I've made for breakfast.
The giant sat down and ate while Jack hid in the cupboard and watched. When the giant finished his breakfast, he said to his wife,
Now bring me my hen.
To Jack's astonishment, the hen laid a perfect egg, and it was made of solid gold. As soon as the giant and his wife left the kitchen, Jack crept out of the cupboard and over to the table to get a better look at the hen that laid the golden egg.
Please help me,
said the hen. Jack jumped in surprise.
You can talk? Yes. And that giant is very cruel. Every day he forces me to lay him a golden egg. Please take me away from here.
Jack couldn't say no to a talking hen who laid golden eggs.
Okay, but we must be quick, and we must be very quiet.
He took the hen in his arms, ran out of the castle as fast as he could, and together they scrambled down the beanstalk.
Thank you,
said the hen when they reached the bottom.
How can I ever repay you? Well, you can come live with me, and I won't ever force you to lay eggs.
The hen was very happy with this, and so was Jack's mother when she saw the magical talking hen. The hen only laid eggs when she wanted to, and Jack and his mother lived very well from the gold. But one day, as Jack was playing outside, he heard a strange noise. It sounded as if someone was singing, but it was very far away. Jack looked all around, but he didn't see anyone. Then he realised that the singing was coming from above him, up on the beanstalk. And because Jack was such a curious boy, and he wanted to know who was singing, he climbed up the beanstalk once again. He climbed until he reached the sky, and he found the road in the clouds,
and he followed her to the great big castle, just as he did before. He knocked on the tall wooden door.
Hello.
The giant woman answered, but this time she did not look so kind when she saw Jack.
You must go away. The last time you were here, my husband's hen disappeared. But I must know who's singing.
Jack tried to say, but the giant woman shut the door in his face. Jack still wanted to know who he heard singing, so he snuck into the castle through a window and he hid in the cupboard while the giant woman cooked her husband's dinner. Soon he heard rumbling footsteps that made the whole castle quake.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
The giant bellowed.
Don't be silly,
said the giant woman.
You smell the steak and potatoes I've made for dinner.
The giant sat down and ate while Jack hid in the cupboard and watched. When the giant finished his dinner, he demanded,
Now bring me my harp.
The giant woman placed a beautiful golden harp on the table, and the giant shouted,
Play!
To Jack's astonishment, the harp began to play and sing a gentle lullaby. To get a better look at the harp that could play by itself and sing.
Please help me,
said the harp. Jack jumped back in surprise.
You can talk?
Yes. And that giant is very mean. Every night he forces me to play him a song so he can sleep. Please, take me away from here.
Jack couldn't say no to a singing harp that played itself.
Okay,
he said.
But we must be quick, and we must be very quiet.
He took the harp in his arms, ran out of the castle as fast as he could, and together they began scrambling down the beanstalk. But as soon as the harp stopped playing, the giant awoke. When he saw his harp was gone, he roared in anger and chased after Jack.
Fee, fi, fo, fum.
He quaked. As soon as he reached the ground, Jack swung the axe and began to cut down the beanstalk. The giant saw that it would soon fall, so he climbed back up to his castle into the clouds as quickly as he could. The huge beanstalk fell. That was the last time Jack ever saw the giant.
Thank you. How can I ever repay you?
Well, you can come live with me, and I won't ever force you to play or sing songs if you don't want to.
The harp was very happy with this, and so was Jack's mother when she saw the magical singing harp. People came from miles around to hear its music. With a hen and a harp, Jack and his mother lived very well.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived in a village near a big forest. Her grandmother had made her a beautiful red cloak with a big red hood, which she wore every time she went outside. And so everyone in the village called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother said,
Grandma isn't feeling very well. Will you take this basket of food through the forest to her cottage?
Yes, Mother.
said Little Red Riding Hood.
I sure would love to see Grandma.
She put on her red cloak, and she pulled up her red hood, and she took the basket of food.
Remember,
Her mother called after her.
don't talk to any strangers along the way.
I won't.
Little Red Riding Hood promised, and she skipped down the path and into the woods. Little Red Riding Hood did not have to worry about getting lost in the forest, because she knew the way to Grandma's house very well. But along the way, she saw some beautiful wild flowers growing near the path.
I bet Grandma would really love these,
She said to herself, and she stopped to pick a few.
Hello, little girl,
said a deep, growling voice from behind her. Little Red Riding Hood was very startled. She spun around and saw a big bad wolf standing in the shadows between two trees.
Hello,
said Little Red Riding Hood. She didn't know that the wolf was bad, and she had already forgotten her mother's words about talking to strangers.
Where are you going on this fine day?
asked the big bad wolf.
I'm going to my grandma's cottage on the other side of the forest,
said Little Red Riding Hood.
She isn't feeling very well, so I'm bringing her this basket of food and these flowers.
What a sweet girl you are,
said the big bad wolf. He smiled and showed his mouthful of sharp teeth. The big bad wolf was quite hungry, and he was not interested in the basket of food.
I had better be going.
And she skipped off down the path. The big bad wolf's stomach grumbled and growled with hunger, and suddenly he had an idea. As quick as he could, he ran through the forest all the way to Grandma's cottage. The sneaky wolf opened the door very quietly and found Grandma asleep in her bed. He picked up the old woman, opened his great big mouth, and he swallowed poor Grandma in one gulp. Then the big bad wolf climbed into the bed and pulled the blanket up to his chin. He put on Grandma's glasses and her nightcap, and he waited for the little girl to arrive. When Little Red Riding Hood arrived at the cottage, she opened the door quietly and found Grandma lying in bed.
Hello, Grandma,
she said.
Mother told me you weren't feeling well, so I brought some food and some flowers. Do you like them?
What a sweet little girl you are,
said the wolf in his fake grandma voice.
Come closer, my dear.
Little Red Riding Hood took a step closer, and she noticed that something looked a little different about Grandma.
My,
she said.
What big eyes you have, Grandma.
All the better to see you with,
said the big bad wolf.
Come closer, my dear.
Little Red Riding Hood took another step closer to the bed.
My,
she said.
What big ears you have, Grandma.
All the better to hear you with,
replied the wolf.
Come closer, my dear.
Little Red Riding Hood took one more step closer.
My, what big teeth you have, Grandma,
she said in surprise.
All the better to eat you with,
growled the big bad wolf. He jumped out of the bed, and as he opened his great big mouth, Little Red Riding Hood shrieked and tried to run, but the hungry wolf grabbed her up and swallowed Little Red Riding Hood in just one gulp. Outside the cottage, a woodsman happened to be walking through the forest when he heard Little Red Riding Hood's shriek of surprise. He hurried inside, and he saw the wolf with his huge round belly. The woodsman grabbed the big bad wolf, turned him upside down, and shook him by his feet. Little Red Riding Hood came tumbling out of the wolf's mouth, and Grandma followed. The three of them chased the big bad wolf out of the cottage, out of the forest, and over the hill. The big bad wolf ran for his life and was never seen again. Little Red Riding Hood learned her lesson, and she never, ever talked to strangers again. The end.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania. Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
There once lived a clever and successful jeweler named Omar in the ancient city of Baghdad. He traveled across the world, collecting and selling rare jewels and ornaments. Omar was famous for the beauty and uniqueness of his jewelry. One evening, as he sat with some curious customers, he showed them dazzling pieces from his collection. But one of them pointed at a small wooden box and asked, "Omar, what is in this box?" Omar smiled mysteriously. "Ah, this box. I will show you what's inside. But I'm waiting for night to fall." The sun dipped below the horizon, and shadows filled the room. Omar slowly opened the wooden box. A radiant blue glow filled the space. The jewel inside sparkled so brightly it seemed to light up the entire shop. Omar held it gently in his hands and said, "This is one of the 7 most precious stones in the world. I plan to present it to the king himself." He told them he would leave by train the next morning to deliver it to the royal court. Unbeknownst to Omar, among the customers sat a thief named Jami. The sight of the glowing gem held him spellbound. A desire burned inside him. He had to steal that jewel. The next morning, Jami bought a train ticket and boarded the very same compartment as Omar. He smiled and said, I too am going to Baghdad. May I be your companion? Omar looked into Jami's eyes. In that moment he knew the truth. Jami was no companion, he was a thief. Still, Omar welcomed him with a smile and said nothing. They chatted through the day, and when night came, Omar took off his robe and hung it beside Jami's. Then, without a sound, he slipped the jewel box into Jami's robe pocket and went to sleep peacefully. Jami woke in the dark. He tiptoed toward Omar's belongings and searched everything, his robe, his bags, even under his pillow. But the jewel was nowhere to be found. At dawn, Omar woke up early, retrieved the jewel from Jami's pocket, and wore his robe again. Over breakfast, Jami asked, Omar, your stone didn't shine last night. Did you forget it? Omar replied with a smile, No, it is still with me. He opened the box and revealed the glowing jewel once again. Jami was stunned. He scratched his head and thought, Tonight, I must find it no matter what. But once again, Omar did the same. He hid the box in Jami's robe as they slept. And once again, Jami searched the entire compartment, every nook and cranny, but never his own pocket. Morning came, and Omar calmly retrieved the jewel. Over breakfast, Jami asked, Where is your stone? It didn't shine last night. Have you lost it? Omar simply replied, No, it is with me. Its shine cannot be dimmed. The third night passed the same way. Jami searched everywhere except his own shirt, and each morning, the stone returned to Omar's hands as if by magic. At last, they reached their destination. Before parting ways, Jami turned to Omar and said, Brother, I must confess, I am not a traveler. I am a thief. I joined you only to steal your precious stone. But I searched for it for 3 nights and still don't know. Where did you hide it? Omar smiled and said, I knew you were a thief from the very first moment. And the truth is, the stone was never with me. It was with you. Jami's eyes widened. With me? He whispered. Omar nodded. Yes, every night I placed it in your pocket. You searched everywhere, except your own self. Jami shook his head in disbelief, and Omar walked away, smiling. And so, the thief who searched outward found nothing, while the wise man knew the treasure was always close by. Sometimes in life, we search the world for happiness, success, or love. But the truth is, what we seek is often hidden within ourselves.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.
3 Billy Goats Gruff. Once upon a time, there were 3 Billy Goat brothers who lived on a grassy hillside near a river. There was Little Billy Goat Gruff, Middle Billy Goat Gruff, and Great Big Billy Goat Gruff, the largest of all. The Billy Goat brothers lived happily on their hillside, spending their days munching grass and drinking cool water from the river. But then, one terrible day, they looked around to see that they had eaten all the grass on the hillside.
Oh no! What will we eat now?
Cried Little Billy Goat Gruff.
Don't worry, little brother.
Said Middle Billy Goat Gruff.
Look across the river. There's a lush meadow over there, filled with delicious grass.
That's right,
said Big Billy Goat Gruff.
All we have to do is cross the bridge, and we can eat all the grass we want.
But crossing the wooden bridge over the river was dangerous. The Billy Goat brothers knew that an awful, smelly troll lived underneath the bridge, and his favourite thing to eat in the whole wide world was Billy Goat.
Who will cross the bridge first?
Asked Great Big Billy Goat. Finally, Little Billy Goat Gruff spoke up.
I will trust the bridge first.
He took a deep breath and trotted down the hillside, went his hooves on the wooden bridge.
Who's that clip-clopping on my bridge?
Shouted the troll.
It's I, Little Billy Goat Gruff,
said the youngest Billy Goat, trying to sound brave.
I'm going over the river to eat the grass on the other side.
Oh, no, you're not,
said the horrible troll. Little Billy Goat Gruff was very scared of the smelly old troll, but he was also a very smart Billy Goat.
I don't think you want to eat me. You see, I'm the smallest Billy Goat. I won't make a very good meal. But if you wait, my older brother, Middle Billy Goat Gruff, will come along. He's much bigger than me.
All right. You may cross the bridge.
And so, little Billy Goat Gruff the rest of the way over the bridge and was soon in the lush meadow. On the other side of the river, the two other Billy Goat brothers saw that their youngest brother was safe.
I'll go next,
said Middle Billy Goat Gruff, and off he went across the wooden bridge.
Who's that?
Shouted the troll.
It is I, Middle Billy Goat Gruff. I'm going over the river to join my brother in the meadow.
The smelly troll climbed up onto the wooden bridge a second time.
Oh, no, you're not.
He hissed.
Because I'm going to eat you instead.
Middle Billy Goat Gruff was scared of the troll, but like his younger brother, he was also a smart goat.
You could eat me, but you would be making a mistake. If you just wait a short while, my older brother, Great Big Billy Goat Gruff, he's the biggest of all of us and would certainly make the best meal.
All right, you may cross the bridge.
And so, Middle Billy Goat Gruff the rest of the way over the bridge and was soon in the lush meadow with his younger brother. On the hillside, Great Big Billy Goat Gruff could see that both his brothers had made it safely across the river, and so off he went, down the hill and onto the wooden bridge.
Who's that bridge?
Said the troll.
It is I, Great Big Billy Goat Gruff. I'm going over the river to join my brothers in the meadow.
The vile troll climbed up onto the wooden bridge a third time.
Oh, no, you're not, because I'm going to eat you instead.
But unlike his younger brothers, Great Big Billy Goat Gruff was not afraid of the terrible troll. The large goat stamped his hooves, lowered his great big horns, and charged at the troll. The horrible, ugly, smelly troll fell into the river with a great big splash. And so, Great Big Billy Goat Gruff and was soon in the lush meadow with Little Billy Goat Gruff and Middle Billy Goat Gruff. The three Billy Goat brothers spent the rest of their days happily munching green grass, and the ugly troll was never, ever seen again. The end.
Like and subscribe to Kidomania.